I'm Autumn Brown, front woman of the soul pop band Autumn, a queer science fiction writer, a theologian, a mother of dragons, and a healing justice facilitator for social movements living on Dakota and Anishinaabe land, currently known as Minneapolis.
And I'm Adrienne Marie Brown, a luscious Black queer witch writer auntie, an apocalyptic love scholar, a public conversationalist, and a gardener of healing ideas. I live in the land of the Occaneechi, Shakori, Squirure, Tuscarora, Eno, and Lumbee peoples, currently called Durham.
I see you conversationalist.
I'm a public conversationalist. Let's just call it what it is.
Love. And this is How to Survive the End of the World,
our podcast about learning from apocalypse with grace, rigor, and curiosity.
As a reminder, we have no ads. We are listener supported.
And y'all are the listeners, so join our Patreon for exclusive content. Okay, we have a show for you today. I am so excited. We are so excited. There's an old friend, there's a new friend, everybody fine, everybody talented. And I think you're going to be excited by the kind of laughter that gets opened in you today. We'll see what happens. No promises. But we're going to read the bios. Today we have these stars of We Come to Collect, a Flirtation with Capitalism. And I got to see this show and I'm going to tell you about it. But here are the two people. It's Jenn Kidwell and Brandon Kazen-Maddox. And I'm going to give you the bio for Jenn and then Autumn will read you Brandon's bio. Okay. So Jenn Kidwell, one of my oldest and dearest friends, but here's her bio and it's so impressive. So I'm going to read like so much of it. Okay. Jenn Kidwell's poignant, performer-driven theater work addresses the complexities of race and notions of American history with sharp intelligence and wry humor. Invested in probing challenging social and historical truths, Kidwell says, "My work celebrates what exists at our margins, the aberrant and abhorrent truths and systems that normativity would have us overlook and deny. And that her work is, quote, concerned with discomfort and or confusion around normative practices and systems, end quote." With Scott Shepard, Kidwell co-created, performed in, and won an Obie for Underground Railroad game, lauded by the Philadelphia Inquirer as a brilliant theatrical commentary on contemporary race relations. A graduate of Pig Iron Theater Company's School for Advanced Performance Training, she created and appeared in the company's project I Promised Myself to Live Faster and the Wilma Theater's production of Antigone. For the Whitney Biennial, Kidwell performed in Joe Scanlon's provocative piece Dick's Last Stand as the artist Donnell Woolford. She performed in Zinnia's The Life of Clementine Hunter, an opera by Robert Wilson, Toshi Regan, Bernice Johnson Regan, and Jacqueline Woodson. She performed as The Whole Ocean, advocating for and defending itself to humans in Ocean Filibuster, and has co-created a transformative theatrical experiment called Those with Two Clocks, which made me bawl in public. Kidwell holds a BA in English and Comparative Literature from Columbia University and trained as a clown. The New Yorker calls her part chaos Muppet, part deep thinker. We also went to college together. She's original Goddess Crew, and I have been obsessed with her since I met her. That's Jenn Kidwell.
Oh, this is so sweet.
So fun. Okay.
And because, and I want everyone to know that because Adrienne and Jenn met when they were in college, I met Jenn when I was in high school.
Oh, that's true.
So I've known Jenn since I was like a baby.
A baby.
Okay. So I get to introduce our other esteemed guest, Brandon Kazen-Maddox. Brandon Kazen-Maddox is a grandchild of deaf adults and a third-generation native signer of American Sign Language who identifies as a non-binary Black Indigenous person of color and a member of the LGBTQAI plus community. Emphasis on plus. He has worked as a professional circus acrobat and graduated from New York University's Tisch School of the Arts with an MFA in dance and new technology. He currently works as a professional artist, choreographer, director, editor, and ASL artist, both in New York City and remotely. In We Come to Collect, Brandon brings an ASL dancing sidekick character to life.
Yes.
And we're going to get to hear all about that today.
Thrilling. All right. So that's who we've got. Welcome to the house. Welcome to How to Survive the End of the World. We're so grateful to have you both here with us. And first, we always like to just start off by asking everyone, how are you doing right now, today, at this moment on the clock of the universe? Jenn, do you want to start us off? How are you doing?
I am high 1, 2. Thank you so much for
like high for real
here.
High?
Yeah, like no.
Oh, I was like, wow, really?
No, I would never subject you or your audience to that. Absolutely not. Not me being high on your podcast. Absolutely
like, wow,
not playing
bold.
with your time or your viewers or listeners' time like that. But if anybody's curious, hit me up a little bit later tonight.
You have to commission that. Okay.
No, I feel really grateful and excited, and then I also feel nervous and very tingly in my body. Like it's like there's little fireworks kind of exploding from my solar plexus, and so like a little breathlessness. But I trust that will settle after a while.
Beautiful. Well, welcome. Wow. We welcome that aliveness. Brandon, how about you?
Number one, I'm excited to be here. Thank you for having Jenn and I, and inviting us into the living room, the space. At this moment, I feel very tranquil. I feel really grateful to be in such lovely company, and it's nice to just be using my voice and being able to express myself through my voice in a podcast. For those of you who can't see, I'm also signing at the same time. This is called SimCom, but simultaneous communication. But this is how I express myself. But here we are in this vocal oral land. And I'm happy to be a part of it.
Awesome. We're so grateful to have you here. SimCom. That's what I want to do. Okay. Autumn.
Living in the future.
How are you, my sister?
Oh, man. I'm very excited about this conversation. Just delighted to be here with all of you. Yeah. And, there's always a funny thing about showing up to podcasting, because there's everything that happens in the lead up to the moment where here we are. And then we land here and it feels like this other world. It's this other world that's happening here in the space of this conversation. And it means that, yeah, there's just like, for me, it often feels like a comfort to feel like a sort of temporarily suspended from other worries, other concerns of life. There's a lot, as Adrienne knows, there's a lot going on in my day-to-day. I'm riding a lot of teenager roller coasters at the same time, 3 different roller coasters at the same time. And so being able to be temporarily suspended in an other world feels like a great comfort to me today. Those roller coasters, I love those roller coasters, but there are moments where I just am like, I need Dramamine. Somebody knock me out.
Every time I hear you give an update from Parenting Land, I'm like, thank you for having the kids. I'm so happy.
I took one for the cosmic
you really
team,
did,
y'all.
because no one else was trying to do that.
Did.
But I'm so glad you did. And they're so great. But yeah, you really are. Every time you give me an update, I'm like, wow.
And I made some great ones. I have to say,
really top tier.
They are my top. They're my top culture
always
on a daily basis. But it's a lot. Adrienne, how are you?
Well, I have to say, this morning I was on the entire internet, and I saw this thing called The Guide to Foolery Under Fascism, and I was like, this is right on time. Like, that's kind of what I'm really excited to get into today, because I'm just sort of like, I've been thinking a lot about the use of the absurd and the outsized, and even for myself being like, can I let Jenn knows I'm in a lifelong question about this, but can I get more ridiculous? Can I just be true about what makes me laugh? Can I be true about what makes me feel? Can I be honest about those things? And so I feel like a similar like nervous excitement that I always feel when I get to be in public conversation anywhere near Jenn Kidwell around these things, because I'm like, you're such a North Star for me in it. And then I also I had the sweetest last like 24 hours. Like I turned in a big chunk of writing on my book and I'm still like working on it, but it was like, here's a big chunk to look at that I'm like, oh, I kind of like how I really love this book, but it's like, it's starting to make sense outside my head, which is thrilling.
Hey.
And then my baby took me on a date. And it was just like so sweet. Like we both we get dressed like subtly matching. Like we both just, like she'll show me what she's wearing and I'll like use that as inspiration to go into my closet. But this time we were like, let's meet in the wild. And so we didn't tell each other what we were wearing and we were still subtly matching. And it was like so cute.
Wow.
And then, I don't know, it's just like a really sweet time together. Like to be like, this is the summer. There was a THC drink on the menu at the bar. So that was thrilling for me because I'm like, finally, I can go to the bar and not have to drink alcohol and still be able to have like a altered sensibility or whatever. So all of that is feeling really good. Fascism is present. My life is feeling like, I just feel like I keep having to be very protective over like what I'm here to do, not in spite of, but because of and against that energy that is like life. Like I feel so protective of my life force right now. So yeah, that's how I'm doing today. I'm really grateful to be here.
Thank you, sister. Thank you, everyone, for your beautiful check-ins.
Yeah.
We're going to get right into the interview, darlings. So first, we want to ask if you can both tell us some of the highlights of your journey to what we could call transformative theater. Theater that can change the lives and worldviews of those who experience it. So if you can kind of give us a little orientation to maybe what have been some of the major moments or turning points along that path towards making this particular type of theater.
Yeah. And we're particularly interested in the clowning, like Black people who find the path of clown theater. So if there's, if you want to touch on that, if there was a particular need or desire that took you into the clown realm of theater and what clowning is now, that can all fit in here. So.
Okay. Well, I'll say, as a child, I was really fascinated with and kind of obsessed with Alice in Wonderland. And I usually cite a particular movie that was aired
with Carol Burnett
in the 80s. Carol Channing.
Carol Channing. Sorry, my bad. I always do that. Carol Channing.
Carol Channing, which was like the big moment for me. Yes. Jam tomorrow, jam yesterday, but never jam today.
That's right.
Jam tomorrow, jam yesterday, but never ever jam today.
Just the love of, to use your word, like absurdity and all of the unlikely places that piece goes, but also all of the metaphors embedded in it and the deep wisdom that's embedded in it. And then in undergrad, there was a moment of like making a theater piece in like 48 hours that was based upon a psychological experiment. And that really shifted my notion. That was with a man named Dan Hurlin.
Okay.
And that really shifted my notion of what is possible theatrically. And then I experienced an arts festival in Vienna that also like opened my aperture. And I was like, I want to learn how to make my own kind of theater. And then at one point I was going to move to Berlin, but then I ended up in Philly at the Pig Iron School. And I would say I did some clown with some people like Orlando Pobotoy and Jane Nichols, and they really opened my mind to like comedy and to me performing and loving. Like I actually think that clown is just a very intense expression of self-love. And the kind of clown that I prefer to do, bouffant, is like self-love and then love of this time space despite the inherent absurdity of just being a fucking human.
Yeah.
Oh,
you can curse,
it's not
please.
like a language thing here.
Please.
Okay.
The more cursing, sometimes the better.
The better, just to get it out and be clear. But yeah, like, we're animals.
Yeah.
But we act like we're not. Like, we're convinced that we're not, or something like that.
So true.
It's crazy. What other organism is like, no, that's not me? It's like, yes, it's us.
Yeah.
It's us. So, and also, like, what other organism is actively attacking its home? Like, not
Preach.
just each other, but the fucking home.
Yes, the whole thing.
The home itself. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's Buffon. Is like, I am trying so hard to love us despite who we are, but this is who we are. And I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That was lovely, Jen. So yeah, I mean, my journey has, especially regarding clown world and circus for me, that's kind of where it's come from. So I started my journey as a gymnast from age 4 to 10. So it's like everything has always been very focused on the kinesphere and the extent of our distal energy from the center of our body to the tips of our fingers and the tips of our toes. Vitruvian Man in that way, but how much space do you take up in an orb? That's your kinesphere, right?
Awesome.
So understanding spatial awareness like that. And I think my first exposure to clowning was when I worked at this place called Teatro Zinzani. And that was in Seattle when I was a senior in college. And I had seen, I was like, whoa, what is this world? So it was a dinner theater and circus and in a Spiegel tent.
Wait, a what tent?
A Spiegel tent. Spiegel means mirror in German. And so it is a round wooden tent. It was built in Belgium. And Belgium, for the beer. Belgium. You drink the beer and you wipe it.
Wait, and
this is Seattle?
Seattle.
Belgium.
Yep.
Seattle is shaking up here, but not right next to the cheek, Jen.
No. Yeah,
I was like, what happened to Seattle?
Jen was doing it. I'm just shining light on what Jen was doing.
I just want to know what happened.
I'm just trying to bring it to life for the listeners.
You know,
okay?
sign language is a 3-dimensional visual gestural language, and so it gets flattened out in this world of 2 dimensions. But all that to say, yes, in Seattle is where I started like my circus journey, and I was working with these professional artists, and at that time I was a server, so I was like, we would learn choreography and the show would change over every 3 months, so new artists would come every 3 months, but we, the wait cast or the wait staff, were living in Seattle and working for the restaurant, and so we had these costumes that we would wear and learn choreography, and then I would get to know these artists, and then we would eat afterward, and I was like, guys, I want to become you. Like, I am a performer. How do I do that? They're like, go to circus school, move to San Francisco, but there's another Teatro Zinzani there. And I was like, okay. So then I graduated and was 21, and I was like, let's do it. Like, the world is open, let's go. And so that's what I did. I moved to San Francisco, went to circus school at the San Francisco Circus Center. And there are 4 disciplines, which are contortion, which I was like, I love you, but no. No, I mean, I'm flexible. Aerial, which I do now, and like an aerial hoop, but I did not do then. I didn't study that discipline. And then there was Chinese acrobatics, which I did study. And shows. And then there was clowning, the Clown Conservatory, which we took classes in the Clown Conservatory. And there were amazing people. Oh my gosh, Judy Finelli taught me how to juggle from a wheelchair. Very special, wonderful people. So I could go on and on about that. But in San Francisco is when I became a professional acrobat in the circus. And just like Jen was talking about, the absurdity, the wildness of us as animals, as humans, acting as if we are not wild animals, which we are. And in the circus and in clowning, you really get to expose and explore and live in that wildness. And that's what That's what I love. And then, we have one thing I do want to mention though, is this 3-year experience that I had in San Francisco. It's called Paradise. And it was a queer Black mythology. And it was created by a woman named India Sky Davis. And she just picked the best of the best, all Black. Was it all Black people? I want to say it was my first time being
it felt Black.
I mean, if there could have been like 1 or 2 white people who were like trans, but it was trans people, Black people. It was the most colorful, rich experience of circus and originality that I had ever experienced. And I thank India for that. But we did it for 3 years. Honey Mahogany was in it. Like it was prophetic. It was very, very beyond its time. So that was like the permission to become like an ASL artist during that time, which I didn't even know. So all that to say, and then working with Jenn Kidwell is a dream come true. I didn't even know I had that dream.
I love that.
Incredible. Well, let's talk about the work that you all made together. So this work, We Come to Collect, A Flirtation with Capitalism, premiered at the Flea Theater. The Flea said, quote, Obie award-winning artist Jenn Kidwell and ASL artist Brandon Kazen-Maddox invite you to roll in the pigsty of American consumerism. Dark, funny, incisive, and just a little bit misbehaved. Kidwell's interrogation of capitalism and her place within it is an unforgettable, all-inclusive trip into the heart of darkness. Beneath the laugh-out-loud humor is a proposition. Fuck work, chase your dreams, believe that you are a miracle. So let's start, Jenn, with you. Do you remember the first spark of this show?
Yeah, originally it was meant to be a follow-up meditation to Underground Railroad Game. And I was thinking about the relationship between plantations and prisons, and went to New Orleans I was there for like 5 weeks, just like researching by speaking to, and this found its way into the piece. This is Episcopalian priest. I think I say Catholic in the show, but an Episcopalian priest who's also an abolitionist, who we had a beautiful long conversation at the end of which he just like laid out what happens between Twelfth Night, which is January 6th, Feast of the Epiphany, yes. That's the start of the Carnival or Mardi Gras season, and then all the way until Ash Wednesday, and then to Easter. And the conversation with someone who's become a friend, who pushed back on the economic imperative of prisons. I was like, right, because the prisons are making money. And she was like, that's not why the prisons are open. It's a cultural. And so the project then shifted and sort of, it was like in trying to parse out like, what is going on here? What's the kind of original sin, I guess, of this project, this colonial and imperialist project. So thinking about capitalism and like how that it's the seed of that has given rise to so many, many ills. And what even is it, like, what is this religion to which we are so faithful? And so then, there have been like plenty of Mardi Gras up in there. I went to a voodoo festival in Benin because of the relationship between Benin and Haiti and Louisiana. And, just like residencies and thinking and talking. I mean, Adrienne, you and I had that conversation in the hot tub. Were we in Georgia?
We were in Georgia, and it was like a goddess retreat in Georgia that we were, sat in a hot tub looking out over the woods, and you were explaining the questions you were sitting in. I was like, me too, girl.
Still sitting in.
Still in it.
But yeah, I think that's been the genesis. And, like then just this community has kind of like collected itself around the piece of, I feel like any the community around a project like this, right, is the people and their energy, and then also the ability to reflect and refract what's going on. So we like come together and make this kind of prism.
When you say we, can you say a little bit more, like who all do you consider to be in the community of a piece like this?
Oh my gosh. I mean, well, Brandon, Jamil, Adam, Jekka, Lisa, Matt,
they like
Petra, the team. There's the design team, and I did not exhaust that list at all. There's the design team, yes. There's the production team. Okay. There's the like our hosting partner. So like the Flea Theater, Brian Freeland. But also there were people, and this is not exhaustive, but there are people who contributed music, Juliet, Jarvis, Ashlyn, whose presence actually is like felt within the kind of like prism or honeycomb of the piece. And I include like, that was Bishop Das, who I was talking about, the Episcopalian priest or former Episcopalian priest, and Andrea Armstrong. But like my friend Ariana introduced me to Andrea. Like that's part of it. So it's just this aggregated community of beings who have contributed, watched over, shepherded, delivered this thing. I don't know, audiences too. I don't know.
Oh yeah, this show, particularly the audiences, play a big role. And Brandon, where did you enter this dance?
Yeah, I mean, so the names that Jenn was just expressing, not exhaustive, but two are very salient in my mind. One is Jekka Barry. And it was just so interesting because I think this was 3 years ago now. There was a show happening in Austin that I went to go and see. And there was sign language happening in this show. And Jekka happened to be in Austin at the same time and was like, I want to introduce you to my friend, Jenn. We're like doing I don't know, it's not line dancing. What's it called? Is that what it was?
No, it was like we went out to a sort of two-step situation, but we actually went to go see a band.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was just this organic meeting of Jekka introducing Jenn and I to each other, and us like dancing and boot scooting. And then I went to look for some boots, and then it was snowing in Austin, so all the boot stores were closed. Anyway, but what Jenn was saying is like it's an organic accretion of people, and I feel that. And also like hats off to Jenn too for being able to recognize the people who just because somebody comes to accrete does not mean that they actually should be involved. So there is the sentiment of Jenn's wherewithal of understanding who could augment this project is really something. The other salient person is Patrice Creamer. So she is a Black woman who I've worked with in the deaf community. She is a deaf woman, and she works as a director of artistic sign language. And when Jenn asked me to come and be a part of this world, I was definitely interested. We sat down and talked deeply about what it would mean to break open a one-person show and add another person in, and not be an interpreter, but actually an artist and a co-conspirator, which I have personally been waiting for people to see me as this. And Jenn has the foresight to have done so. So I'm so grateful for that. But Patrice is really amazing because we also brought her in because she's a deaf person. Right. And she is a Black person.
She's a Black deaf person.
She is a Black deaf woman. And she is phenomenal. So she represents essentially the perspective of the deaf audience. And she would come and see, and we would do what we believed we wanted to say. And then Patrice would give her devil nugget that Jenn just signed. There were words, very complex things, like a devil nugget, which sure, as ASL is my first language, I could express what I believe a devil nugget is, but also does it land? Does it land on the audience? And Jenn could also be like, is this what devil nugget is? Like, is it a mischievous gremlin that, like you could do all these different things that are clowning and that are mime and, but American Sign Language is a language, and you can't have language without culture and linguistics. And the culture is with deaf people, and the linguistics continues to evolve, but you can't forget about deaf people.
Period.
Or Black people.
Or Black people. I love that. Thank you. We're going to come back for more of this, but I want to just peek about the staging of this show for a second. So because I sat in the front row, and so I really had to experience, and I remember reading one of the reviews of the show, maybe in the New Yorker also, it says like, sit in the front if you really want to like risk fully experiencing this show. Like the closer you sit, the more you're going to get from it. But the stage of We Come to Collect is set up with a massive mirror screen behind it that is reflecting the audience, which means the audience from the moment you enter it's awesome. I got to sit there a little before the rest of the people came in, and it was just like, you're just contending with yourself. It's just you in this mirror. Like it's like whatever the show is going to be, you're in it. You know that from the moment you come in. And as we go on this journey, you're able to see things you normally wouldn't see. Like if you're having an interaction with someone down the row, like often I wouldn't be able to see that, but because it was in the mirror, it's like nobody could hide every provocation, every discomfort, every laughter, like everything we had to face. And it's also like, as the show is going on, you're really having to, the questions you're asking, it's like, you'll create a reaction from us. We'll laugh, or we'll be like, oh yeah, girl. And you'll be like, but how fucked up is that? Kind of like, how fucked up is it that we just had that reaction together? Like, can we interrogate it? And you have to deal with yourself over and over again. I wanted to uplift this because, I tend to make work that I'm like, I want everyone to see this everywhere. And then when I go to something like theater, I'm like, I want everyone to experience this everywhere. But theater is so much more ephemeral, and it's so present and rooted in place. So I'm like, I want to see if you guys can speak a little bit about what you hoped the audience would reckon with, or what would happen to the audience because of that. Yeah, that mirror, that like facing yourself. And like, if there's basically a wisdom that you can lift up as the creator of that, that's like, here's what I'm hoping you experience, because everybody has a mirror somewhere in their house. You can go do some of this exercise with yourself, Can
I just ask like a logistical question so our audience can visualize? Was the audience also lit?
Yes. So the audience is, so it's like, there's a massive, the mirror screen is like the size of the whole stage. And the audience is kind of black box theater. The one that I was in, it was like kind of black box theater. So the audience is just like in these little like rows, and then we're lit up the majority of the time. And especially when Jenn is coming, and Jenn and Brandon are coming and sitting on our laps, dancing with us, stuffing cake in our faces, doing the different things that are, part of it. I don't want to reveal too much, but I want to reveal everything. Anyway, go ahead.
The mirror, I think originally, if I remember correctly, and I tend to not, but I believe we were on a residency at Woolly Mammoth Theater in DC, and I feel like there was a mirror in the room when we were at this residency. But at some point over the course of sharing this piece, there was like a mirror in the room. And then it was like, oh, this actually makes sense. I feel that it was Jamil who was like, that needs to be a part of the piece. And then it was their suggestion that the mirror go in the corner. And so, and that to begin with, that I would turn away from the audience, I think. There was also a desire from me, it was like, what's your dream of the piece? And I'm like, the piece should begin with like a hologram. Like I wanted to kind of figure out a way to be distended or, disconnected and just kind of this floating entity. And that became this setup of the mirror. And there has been in the piece for a long time. These just projections of like a lot of these, well, what they were originally, a lot of them were like photos that I had taken over the years or video that I had taken. And, you know, I just like take these things because I think they're enchanting or beautiful or funny. And then I was like, well, it turns out that belongs, I've just been
fascinating
gathering the things that are needed for this piece, it turns out. And, you know, then Matt came along and really upped the game, you know, and Jian Jung came along and upped the, Matt is the video designer. So he shifted that. So it had a bit more polish and maybe made a bit more sense, but keeping a kind of junky nature. And then Jian Jung, who was the scenic design person, you know, so we had originally, you know, we had just like whatever mirrors were hanging out in the flea that Martin and Nigel and the flea let us use. Then this individual named Red came and made this bigger mirror. I think it was about like 8x6 or something. And that was like Red, Brian, you know, like trying to figure out what's the dramaturgy of the border of the mirror. And, you know, how do we get this thing made? And then Jian Jung was like, if we're going to switch spaces and be in a larger space, we need a bigger mirror. So now it's 10x14. Yeah. And there was a time when the mirror and the projections got put together, right? There was a version of the piece, I think the last time was at a subcircle residency in Maine, where there was a mirror and the projections were separate. And then it was like, no, the mirror should be a portal. So that the idea is that like, yes, we're looking at ourselves, but then we're also looking past ourselves, but it's coming through the same transmission or delivery system. And I think to this point, we were saying, you know, Adrian, during your check-in, you were like, how can I find myself within this system of fascism? How do I locate and ground myself? Yeah. And then at the same time, we have to balance that with like looking past and beyond ourselves. Yeah. So that's the idea. And it's funny. In my mind, I was like, it's important for everybody in the audience to be able to see themselves. But sometimes I just don't think so big. So I wasn't really thinking about checking in and seeing other people initially. Yeah. The thought is like, like we're all here together. Yeah. And then I think the implication gets turned a little bit when it's like, and I'm also here with you. Yeah. And I can see you.
Well, and there's something about it. It's, you know, now we live in this Zoom culture, you know, like I think this would have landed maybe a little different before the pandemic or something, but there's something about the Zoom culture now where like often if I'm in a conversation, I'm also seeing myself in the conversation. If I'm listening to someone else, I could also be watching my face, listening to someone else, and I could watch someone else's face listening. And there's just so much, you know, so much of our social media is like catching someone else having an experience or getting on and being like, here's what I wore when I did this, or whatever. It's just, there's so much being faced with yourself, whether you want to or not. Right. And what I felt like with this was like at various moments in the show, I really wanted to be faced with myself and be like, yeah, like, why am I more comfortable buying Beyonce tickets than like buying theater tickets? Like, what is that about? You know, like there were things where I was like, yeah, confront that, you capitalist. And then there was other times where I was like, no, I want to watch someone else. You know, I want to watch, especially the people who I perceived as a little braver than me, the ones who were like, I'll speak up or I'll stand up or I'll do something, you know, where I'm like, you know, I'm always the person at the comedy show who's like, don't look at me, like, just do your thing. I just want to observe. I just want to watch, you know, but I love the invitation of like, no, you have to be in it. Like we're all vulnerable here. You know, we're all going through this together.
Yeah. And like none the least of which is our Brandon and I think that's part of it too is,
because you start off with the two of you facing the mirror. It looks like you're having a conversation with self or just with each other.
Yeah, that's the idea. Brandon's facing a bit more downstage, but there is like, let's start this by, there's a sort of alleging there's a kind of closed circuit.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's like meant to be like let's wade into this. We know where this is going, but let's wade into this experience and let's perform a kind of deep knowledge and profundity that we don't necessarily espouse or believe in, but this is a bit of the lore to try to get you, you know, it's, as we were working on the piece, we talked about it in terms of it's like a long term, it's like a long grift. So there's a lot of truth. I mean, there's nothing, there ain't no lies in that script. Yeah. Like all of that shit is like, I literally have been thinking about this, or like,
it's so well written, Jenn.
My mom says that shit. I mean, you know my mom, Adrienne, that my mom says those, has been saying those things my whole life. And it's also a grift.
Yeah.
The grift being like the performance of a sort of like wisdom that you don't necessarily have. Is that what you mean?
Well, spoiler alert, there's a real-time money ask in it.
Oh,
and like one of the dares of the show was like, you know what? If you're going to make a show about capitalism, like, can you just get some fucking money? Just get these people to give me some money. And I'm curious about that. I'm curious about like, just being like, just give me some money. And that kind of happening. But then like, there are these other ways where it's like, no, I'm curious about that for myself. Like, what are the moments when somebody's like, give me that?
Yeah.
Which is a nickname that I was given by the ill dudes. They were like, one of whom is Jordan McCree, who was our sound designer. They were like, I feel like one of your nicknames needs to be "Gimme That," and I was like, you see me. Yeah. But there's something about like, what are the moments when I am out in public when somebody is like, just give me some shit, and I'm like, you know what? Yeah. Why shouldn't I? And which is wild because like I'm an artist and I am not.
Yeah.
Rich. Yeah. I will never be rich.
Yeah.
Especially at this rate of being like, you know what? Take it. I don't know. You're right. I don't get the cheapest balsamic vinegar.
Yeah.
So I must be doing some kind of okay. You know what I mean? But it's like all relative, right? Because there are people who are like,
yeah,
you are so fucking broke. Shut up.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, but you know, and so if I'm thinking about the vagaries of like where my money goes and what it actually is and isn't, it is merely an agreement. Yeah. It isn't something that defines me. And I think about the amount of choice that I have access to, which isn't as much choice as some people, but it's way more fucking choice than a whole bunch of other people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Then I'm like, I want to play with that in a show. Like, why not? Why not? Give me, and originally it was like, just give me $1. And then we just started upping it. There used to be a line, I want you to give me as much money as you can give me without causing yourself harm or something like that. I want you to give me everything you can give me without causing a problem for yourself.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Because I'm worth it. Because I'm miraculous. Because I deserve it as much as anyone else.
Wow.
I know that not everybody can see this, but yes, fucking miracle.
Fucking miracle. Yeah.
Brandon, come on in.
Yeah. There's something that you just said, Jenn, about money is merely an agreement. And I think you single-handedly have changed my own view of what capitalism is, by being so close to you in this and having to take on, not just turn what you said into sign language, but to own and believe the philosophy behind this performance has been really world shifting. And, talking to other people about the difference between what do you do and what are your dreams, like that has changed me kind of fundamentally. So, but going back to the mirror really quickly, of looking past and beyond the mirror, looking past and beyond ourselves and recognizing ourselves. One thing that I don't think anybody meant, but it happens when something is so good, is deaf people. And I have this impetus too, right? Because it's silent. When the deaf community or the signing people go to a show and are in the audience, we will tend to talk with each other because it's silent, right? And hearing people are like, you don't talk during a show, period. It's rude, right? So don't do it. No talking, no singing, no zip. And like, if you're an audience member, but if you know sign language, you can be like, yeah, did you see that? Like, isn't that cool? Like, the set design is really nice. You could just have your own little private conversation. However, when you see yourself in the mirror and you are doing this, you can see how visually distracting it is. Because literally you're talking during the show, whether anyone can hear you or not. So deaf people were forced to face themselves when they would be like, da, 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 and then they're like, oh, you can see me. It's like, yes, everybody can see you. You know what I'm saying? And just because you can't hear it. You know what I'm saying? So that was a trip. And actually recently I went to go see a show and it's called Trash. I'll plug it. It's great. 2 deaf actors, and then there's a few other folks. And it's at PAC NYC right now. And it's great. It's awesome. It's really great. There were a lot of deaf people in the audience, and there was this one person who was sitting in the front. I was just behind them. Front row, you on the ground. You are so close to everything. And they were just having a good old time and just talking about what that person, like big gestures. And I was just like, I really had half a mind to be like, because the audience is also the audience. And for those of you who can't see, I'm in waving. I want to wave. Yeah, it's 3/4. It's like super visible. Yes. Like, why can't you see yourself? There was no mirror there.
Fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't say anything because it wasn't really my place. You go ahead and talk loud during a show where most people who know sign language can see what you're saying.
Exactly.
But just facing ourselves is really, really something. So I just love that anywhere we go, we will be sharing that lesson of like, sometimes you really, when you face yourself, you learn a lot.
Period. Oh my God. I want to like make a thing in which there's like 2 conversations happening. Now I'm like, yes. And there should be like a super, animated ASL argument while, I don't know, like it's like wasps at a dinner table.
Yes. Something very proper and prim. And
Oh, I immediately imagined actual wasps.
Oh, also.
You, Autumn.
They could be dressed like actual wasps.
But Autumn, why not?
That'd be fun.
There would be 2
and talking in buzzes only. Like they just be like
for you.
Well, I have a follow-on question about the ASL of it all.
I love you.
Brandon. I know we're all now doing our wasp float.
I'm into it. I love the wasp at dinner.
The wasp at dinner. Brandon, so from what I've heard from Adrienne, you make ASL this just like undeniable invitation and fluency in the performance. But also even in this conversation that we're having, it's like it's really incredible the watching the simcom, the way you're bridging communication every time you're communicating with us. And I'm just wondering, this is a question that Adrienne kind of floated before we started recording, but like from your standpoint, should we all be learning ASL?
I mean, I'm sort of a poster child for what happens when you get ASL in the very beginning of your life and use it when it comes to being able to express yourself. Jenn is a marvel, a miracle, and picked up the knowledge that she has from sign language pre-existing our relationship, I think I've asked Jenn, you're here to be able to speak on it yourself. But what I will say is from where you started to where you are now, of your knowledge of sign language, of like through my body, through Patrice, through our relationship, through asking questions actively, being curious, genuinely wanting to know, and also curious, and genuinely being open to the criticism that I had to keep throwing at you.
I think you were an amazing teacher and a literal bridge. I think we've spoken about you being a bridge in your life, but let's be honest. Jenn wasn't communicating well with ASL, and any facility that she has is due to you. So thank you. Let's be clear about that right here, right now.
Nah, I mean, there's something that's really thank you. There's something that's really interesting that the deaf community has to deal with, which is anyone who knows sign language, who's hearing, teaching sign language. And there's a really fine line of a place where CODAs, children of deaf adults, whose first language, I'm a GODA, right? So my grandparents are deaf, third generation. This is what it looks like. But there are hearing children who were raised with deaf parents who also know sign language in the same way that I do, in the way that it was first, right? So we have a really special relationship with sign language. And we are not deaf, right? And the one job that deaf people can do really well is teach sign language. And so when hearing people decide to take that job, that doesn't mean that deaf people can't do it. So going back to your question, should everyone learn? Yes. Should everyone learn from the beginning? Absolutely. Is baby sign language a good thing? Hell yeah. Fine motor skills, gross motor skills. Like gross motor skills develop first. Fine motor skills are your mouth and your tongue and your throat. So yeah, but how is very, very specific, right? So there's curriculum. There's also the learning development of like K through 7th grade, 8th grade, 9th grade. Like our brains are such sponges. So like, why don't Americans learn more than English? If we had ASL from kindergarten, pre-K through like 8th grade every day, like we have English, or if we had Spanish too, then like what a different world this could be. So long answer to short answer is yes.
Yes. Beautiful. I love that.
I feel like I love language so much, but working with you, Brandon, has really like dimensionalized and so it like expanded so profoundly a notion of meaning and syntax for me.
I love that.
It's just so, it's so beautiful.
Well, I love, when you said that at the beginning, like that our being is like an orb. It's like that filling ourselves all the way out. I was thinking about how when I was a baby facilitator, one of the things that was taught to me, although the number was always different, but it was like 94% of communication is nonverbal. It's not spoken. And I've heard the number as low as 60, but never less than half. And it's always like, what we're doing with our bodies and our faces actually is a huge part of how we communicate naturally. And then this idea of having ASL, where it's like, what we're doing is just saying there's an alignment between these ways that our bodies can naturally speak to each other, that becomes language. It becomes a way that we can understand each other. And I remember a few years ago, I worked on this ritual, and we had folks doing ASL, but then we went to do it in Holland. And I had this whole aha of like, oh, ASL is not going to work in Holland because they're speaking Dutch. And it was just like, it was one of those moments where I was like, I never thought about this, that I'm like, yeah, wherever you go, and they were talking about, they're like, there are a lot of alignments in the motions because the things are the same, but the places where we have to spell or communicate or certain power dynamics, or there's other things that are really distinct. And it just got me so excited about, again, this is why I'm like, part of why I'm a pacifist or someone who doesn't want war in the world is because I'm like, I think we could be spinning so much of that energy of creating and sharing and like, I think I would just know like 12 languages if I wasn't living in a war-torn world, right? Because it'd just be time and energy and space. But I love this idea of like the earlier you start and then just wherever you are, just leaning in and looking for deaf teachers to sort of bring you along on that journey. That's great.
You made me think, Adrienne, all this consciousness and language and yet still war.
Yes. Right. But I'm like, oh, part of it, just to take it one more moment is like the domination of English, right? The colonization and the domination of English is like, this is the one language and everyone has to be in relationship to this one language if they're going to communicate. It's just like, oh, this is another place that extends to. It's like, and it has to be spoken English and it has to be heard English. And so we're just not going to create a space for actually everyone to hear, like, no, that in this moment, we could be speaking multiple languages that would increase how many people could understand. And it doesn't all have to start from English. Like, I think the thing that's the most interesting to me about sign language is it's like, if it predates language, right? If you watch children start to learn and be like, oh, that's I would like more milk, mas, whatever it is. And it's like, it doesn't matter if you're saying more or mas or something else, like the same little motion actually can translate. And it feels like sign language can be one of the ways that we break some of that colonial hold that English has on the world, right? It's just our bodies. I mean, whenever I've traveled, I'm just like, our bodies know how to make a way, communicate with each other. I remember, this night being on a boat, traveling in a room with some people, no one else spoke straight up English. Like there were like 5 languages and we were all in a room together and we talked all night. And we understood each other and people were translating and people were using our bodies and there were tears. But I just remember being like, oh yeah, like this is an evolutionary place, I think, for us. Okay. So we have one more question we want to ask. And one of fascism's, hard left, hard right. One of fascism's many impacts, hard right. One of fascism's many impacts is cutting down on arts funding, arts education funding, suppressing art-centered spaces, colonizing art spaces, shadow banning creative online, basically silencing art that dissents against the state or even encourages people to think for themselves. We know this cycle. Historically, we've gone through it many times and we're in it now. So I want to ask you, and I know the goal is not to be rich, but to be sustaining ourselves, right? For me, I'm just like, how do we sustain ourselves?
Right.
If being rich is the only way, my God, I guess I'll sacrifice. But like, I think that there's something else, right? How do artists actually survive in times like these? Like, what are you learning about this? What are you wishing for this? And how do we keep, like, in spite of the absence of funding, because I don't know for you all, but for me, I look left, right, and center, and like I see so much. It's like a desert where there has been jungle in terms of resources that are pouring into this kind of work right now. And so I'm like, how do we keep creating decolonizing art and getting it to those who need it? How do we survive? How does the work survive? And just curious to hear anything y'all think about that.
Yeah. I mean, this is the thing with fascism, right? Like, yeah. I'm not even going to I'm like, I mean, how long have we been here? For quite some time.
Forever, maybe. Yeah.
Forever. Exactly. Like this imposition runs on control. Yes. And so there has never been a dedicated, it's not a part of our culture to cultivate imagination. What we cultivate is conformity. Yes. And that's what we want. However, so the first thing I think is like maintain a connection to your dream space. They cannot take your dream space from you. Maybe what they're doing is fertilizing it with all their fuckery, hateration. Yeah. This dancery. But
this dancery is rough. This dancery has no rhythm. It's on this one.
I know this dancery is like 1 3 1 3. Toke, tan. They're like, just
Not
this,
tan.
they're like, there's one flavor and it's vanilla.
It's vanilla and it's the best.
It's like, so brought to you by the nation that's like, we're not going to feed you real food, eat this plastic, consume plastic. And just this like leveling, this like intense leveling. I'm like, you can't. I'm like looking out the window to the trees out my window, this window they call mine. And I'm like, you can't stop shit from growing. I mean, you're trying really, really hard, but you can't stop shit from growing. And I think in just the like unfurling of a leaf, the activity of like animals. I'm thinking about Millicent, the cat that's still trying to adopt me. I talk about her a lot. She's kind of my teacher. And I'm like, this winter was cold and she does not have a home. And this heifer is still on my porch. Mm-hmm. She came by this morning. I'm like, if you can make a way, I can make a way. Which is to say, funding's hard and scary. And, things are being canceled or like people are like, we can't have that here. Mm-hmm. But we're artists. And so we have an imagination. And okay, you get a no here, but like, how do you turn it into a yes? And I think let's not forget that we're doing is like imitating our lives or like presenting our lives. And there are so many different delivery mechanisms for that. It's all well and good. It's so nice to like tour and, be put up and presented and all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, can you just like do it on a street corner?
Yeah.
Is that the move?
Yeah.
Maybe. And yet the bills must be paid.
Yeah.
We have each other. Yeah. We have each other and I don't know. Sometimes you just got to find your way to, how can I find my way to fewer and fewer bills? But who, I saw this big sign in DC. And what was the other year? Maybe 22, maybe 23. You are your most valuable currency. And I think that if we really believe that, then what is possible if I consider that about myself? If I'm not trying to like stash and hold, but I'm trying to share resource, what is possible? And I think I'm saying this from, my debatably bourgeois. I don't know if I'm really bourgeois, but,
I'm like broquois. I feel like we're like a different thing. It's like I'm like fancy, but don't have the cash to go with it. Like,
fancy without wealth.
I like a fancy balsamic vinegar, but I can't afford it. But I like that.
Exactly. But you gotta get like the mid-grade stuff where it's like, this is really gonna make this salad pop. I'm gonna like invest in this balsamic. And then also what I'm not doing is buying ready-made salad dressing, so there's some savings there.
So there's something there.
Right. Or somebody recently was asking me about something. I'm like, look, my favorite thing to do is to be a vulture. I'm like, are you not using that? Because I will.
Yeah, that's right. That's imagination too.
Yeah, but I think like I refuse to give up my imagination to these people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
I will not.
That's great. I love that. Brandon, anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, there are a couple things. I love the idea of cultivating imagination and keeping it because they can't take it. And how do we keep going back to the question? How do we artists keep creating, decolonizing art? I think one of the things is when I'm having these dark days, having something on the calendar for yourself that you can look forward to. We've been looking forward to this podcast for quite some time. So having some things in the future that you can get to has helped me keep my everyday going, no matter what is happening during every day. I think when it comes to the fact that we have each other is totally correct, right? What Jenn was just saying about, you know, reaching out to people and keeping your connections. Like, I would say stay hungry and stay searching for opportunities. Jenn, you used the word vulture. Vulture is interesting. I like to think about it as like a closed mouth don't get fed. So there are like two kind of dictums or idioms I live by. Yeah. One is that if you don't say what you need, you will not receive, right? So we should not be afraid to say what we need and be like, you're not using that? Because I would use it. Or like, you have a podcast. Can I be on your podcast? Like, don't wait for the invitation. Yeah. Create the invitation. Okay.
Right.
And then the other one is that necessity is the mother of invention, right? Yes. So when we need and we lack, you had better believe that artists are constantly inventing. And that is what we're good at. So yeah, like keeping things on your calendar, reaching out to your people because you have them. Never feel so alone that you can't create something. Because that's our gift, yo. And if you can't do it alone, find a friend.
I love that. I want to thank both of y'all. It's actually super inspiring to hold it the way you offer it. I want to tell people, like, when I saw Station 11, you know, I was so moved by that piece, the book and the piece. I was so moved by just this idea of like art that will last through apocalypse, and that like if it lasts through apocalypse and if people come across it in the beyond times, it'll help reground their humanity. And I felt that way about We Come to Collect, right? That I was like, oh, this is one of those things where like someday in, 50 years, I'll sit and tell somebody like, I saw this show one time. Let me tell you what happened. They went in a mirror and it was like this, and I'll be old, So
and that's why you will sound like that.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I can't wait to sound like that. I hope you guys all know that I'm just like counting down the days. I'm like, when am I going to sound like this? Anyway, so, but it's this kind of thing that I'm like, if the only piece of art people got to experience was this, it would tell you everything about this time. It would tell you everything about this place, and it would still have the seeds and sparks of awakening and abundance that is counter to capitalism, right? So I'm so grateful that you made that art. I'm so grateful that y'all came to talk with us about it. I feel inspired. Wow. I feel excited. And yeah, thank you for joining our show. We love y'all so much.
Thank you so much for this invitation and for these questions, and how nice to get to be here for this time with all of y'all.
It's delicioso. Yeah, we love y'all.
Shake these bones, oh God, shake these bones, shake these bones.
Thanks for listening to our show. We're on Instagram at End of the World PC.
You can make a sustaining donation to our show by visiting our page at patreon.com/End of the World Show. If you're a patron, or if you become one right now at this very moment, you get our show inside a show, Top Culture, which comes out on Mondays after every Friday episode.
Another incredible thing you can do to help our show sustain itself is to write us a review on Apple Podcasts if you're an iPhone person. This helps people looking for good new content to find us.
And if you're an Android person, you just have to spray paint it on the walls. All right, now How to Survive the End of the World is produced and edited by the incomparable Zach Rosen. Transcripts are in our show notes and on our website at endoftheworldshow.org. Special thanks to Samira Abdul-Rahman.
Nobody knows how it works over there. Music for today's show comes from Autumn, the band, Tunde Alaniran, Mother Cyborg, and the Banksons.